Hello, good afternoon. Welcome back. My name's James Wrigley. Welcome back to December Daily, episode 7 today. Now, I wasn't sure when I would have the opportunity to jump on live today at a few client meetings and other bits and pieces that I need to deal with, get through today. So I wasn't sure when I jump on, so I didn't give anyone any warning about when I was going to be here or what I was going to talk about. In terms of topic, again, I wasn't terribly sure what I was going to talk about in terms of topic either. So if you are out there, give us a hello, drop a like, a comment, something in there. Would be good to know who's there and who's out there. I had quite a really positive response to yesterday's live session. When I looked at Centrelink benefits, probably a bit more than what I expected. Great to have you along again. It's good to have your company and joining me. Yeah, so quite a positive response to yesterday's live. A few messages afterwards, and which kind of caught me a bit off guard. As I said yesterday, it's probably not a topic that was terribly relevant to people that might be watching live. Certainly my connections on LinkedIn, it's not terribly relevant to a whole lot of them, but potentially their parents. So I was tossing up whether to do a bit of a deep dive into the age pension system, which I might do at some point which I will do at some point in an upcoming live session. But today I wanted to jump on and talk about aged care. So I was tossing up between aged pension and aged care. Just in this last 24 hours since my last live, I've had a couple of inquiries from clients within First Financial, not clients of mine, clients of other advisors about aged care. And so I thought I would jump on and talk about that, given that it's a bit fresh for me and relevant. As we head into that kind of Christmas, New Year period, it's often actually referred to rightly or wrongly, it's often referred to as aged care season. If you think about what happens in most families, most households, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, but certainly this time of year is a lot of people coming together. So seeing friends and family, parents, those kind of things, catching up with them that you may not have caught up with them in a little while. Certainly this year, with the distance that's had between all of us, there's a lot of reconnecting going on at the moment. So often this time of year is characterized by people catching up with friends, family, loved ones, and when it comes to their family, quite often parents, you get the kids starting to say, oh, look, mum and dad, they don't seem quite so great anymore. They something's happened to them. They've been slowly going downhill, but when you catch up over Christmas, you kind of quickly realise that maybe there's something that's not quite great with mum and dad, and maybe now's the time for them to move on from wherever they might be living into some type of aged care arrangement. So it is a very busy time for aged care homes right now. In Melbourne, they've well and truly got a bad rap, a number of them with dealing with COVID, and kind of park that to the side for the minute. But it is a busy time for them. So I thought it may be of use. Again, this is probably unlikely to be terribly relevant to, directly to anyone that might be watching this live or catching the replay afterwards. But possibly your parents is where this might be a little bit more relevant. So I just wanted to have a bit of a chat about how the aged care system works, to give you a bit of background, so that you know a little bit, just in case there is someone in your family that you're having to deal with this in the next little while. Graham, great to have you jump on as well. Yeah, yesterday was a great session with you and a couple of others. Asking a few questions. It was really interactive. So glad to have you with me again today. So the aged care system. So this, because it's called aged care, but it actually has nothing to do with someone's age. You have to go along and get an assessment done to determine how able you are to live on your own, and if off the back of that you are deemed needing enough care, you get kind of your ticket, your entry ticket to be able to go into aged care. So as I said, it has nothing to do with age. Unfortunately, there are some very young people in Australia that have qualified and are needing the level of care that comes with an aged care facility. But certainly by and large, it's elderly people moving into these types of places. So you need to go along first off and have an assessment done. And if you are deemed needing enough care, you're allowed to go into one of these places. There are other levels of care before you actually go into residential care. I won't go into those, but 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can get some home assistance around the home and government-supported assistance around the home. Lawrence, look, yes, possibly you wouldn't wish it upon anyone, but events happen, and car accidents and other bits and pieces happen, and you can end up with young people needing to go into care, needing the type of care, the 24-hour round-the-day care that is offered by aged care facilities. So unfortunately, yes, there are a few young people in these types of places, but by and large, it is for the elderly. So you've you've qualified, I guess. You had your assessment done, and you can go off and you can go into one of these places. What I wanted to get into today was the ways in which the different fees are charged. So it is often seen as quite a costly exercise to go into aged care, but you need to remember that someone's practically giving up work, living on their own. So they're for all intents and purposes buying a house or a room to live in, and then they're paying for round-the-clock care, all of their meals, all of their washing, and all of those bits and pieces. So someone's out-of-pocket expenses are often likely to be quite small after they're paid for their care. So you have the cost of the room. So it's broken up into three parts. You have the cost of your room, your residence. You have the cost of your care. And then the third piece is what's referred to as extra services. Ordinarily, if I was in an office drawing this, someone I'd draw a bit of a diagram up on the board. So looking at your room, all of these facilities have to advertise the cost of their room on a particular central government website. It's listed there. At the moment, the most recent person that I helped transition into aged care, we were able to negotiate their room rate, and so we got a bit of a discount on that from what was advertised. But nevertheless, there's an advertised rate which you pay for the room. Now that could be $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I've seen some that are $1 million plus. So depending on where it is, the type of facility that they have, those kind of things, the price of these rooms can vary wildly. But even at the cheaper end, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. At the upper end, it goes in excess of $1 million. So you have you pay for your room. So you can either do that via a lump sum upfront payment, a bit of a tongue twister. Lump sum upfront payment you can make. So if you've got the $500,000, for example, if you've got that available, you can make a lump sum payment towards the cost of your room, and then you have no further ongoing cost towards your room if it was a $500,000 room. The other alternative is that you can pay the interest owing on the outstanding amount. So the interest rate that you pay is struck and is fixed at the time someone enters into care. So instead of paying the $500,000 up front, as in that example, they decided to pay the interest on the $500,000 instead. For the moment, that interest rate is 4.1%, and that's locked in for the life of the resident in there, unless they move facility, then it gets recalculated. $1 million. In and around some of the leafier suburbs of Melbourne, there are many, $800, $900 million rooms around. So it's often, people that are going into those places are often selling a house that's worth a couple of $1 million in the first place. So finding the $1 million if they're selling the house to go in there isn't the struggle, but it's a lot of money, of course. So if you don't pay the lump sum up front, you pay the interest instead on the lump sum. You pay that interest for as long as you're there. So that bill just keeps going on and on. And then you can have some combination of the both. So you either pay a part lump sum, part interest, full lump sum, no interest, and any combination of that you like. Importantly, if you start off on paying interest only, you can then at some point in the future revert to actually paying a lump sum, and then your interest is gone. So you've got the cost of the room. In a lot of cases, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. If it can be a challenge if you're talking about a couple and only one member of the couple needs to go into care, the other person staying in what was the family home. It can be a challenge unless there's a lot of other money elsewhere to pay for that. So you pay for your room. Next piece is you pay for the cost of care. Now, the cost of care starts at, so everyone, regardless of how much money someone has, whether they have a whole lot of money or none at all, everyone at the moment, anyone entering into care, will pay $52.25. I'm just looking over here to get the current rate. $52.25 per day, and that rate is indexed up over time as the age pension is indexed up. It's a fraction of the age pension. But you pay $52.25 a day in what's called the basic daily fee, and everyone pays that regardless of how much money you've got, as I said. Then on top of that, over and above, there's something that's called the means tested fee. And as the name suggests, and it doesn't take a genius to work it out, the means tested fee equates to the more means you have, the more you are asked to pay towards the cost of your care. So at that, where someone's paying as no means tested fee, their care is heavily subsidised by the government. They pay the $52, but the rest of their care is heavily subsidised by the government. But the more means someone has, the more they are asked to contribute towards their own cost of care. Importantly, that means tested fee doesn't go on forever. So if someone entering care has millions of dollars, they'll be asked to pay a pretty hefty means tested fee, but it has an annual cap of just a fraction over $28,000. And then there's also a lifetime cap. So that annual cap will be hit. It works out to about 2.5 years. You pay that lifetime cap for up to about 2.5 years if you've got a lot of money and you're maxing out the annual cap, until you've paid about $67,500 on the current rates towards the lifetime cap, and then that stops. So once someone's paid their $67,000 towards the means testing, that stops altogether. They're back to just paying the $52.25 a day. But importantly, that $52.25 a day is paid the whole way through. So for someone with a whole lot of money that's really up there in that means testing, they're paying the $52 a day plus their daily equivalent of $28,000 a year as well. So we're talking some pretty decent numbers for their cost of care. Now, the means testing, as you can probably imagine, they look at someone's asset position. So how much have you got in the bank, super, all these other bits and pieces. They look at your assets. It's an incredibly convoluted calculation they use, but they look at your assets and they look at your income. And the two are actually added together, the particular calculations they use. Add your income, add your asset together, goes into the calculator, spits out what your means tested fee is. So you've got the cost of the room, which was the first piece that I just explored. That buys you the right to occupy there for the remainder of your years, really, is often the case. They can't kick you out if you run out of money. You're there. You've got a permanent space. Then there's the means tested fee, or the daily fee and the means tested fee, which pays for your ongoing care. Everyone pays the $52.25 a day, and then it goes up from there depending on someone's means, their assets, as they move into care. Then the third piece is what's referred to as extra services. So some facilities charge this and some don't, but it's things like a glass of wine with dinner, Foxtel in the room, maybe internet, all these bits and pieces. That's really the one area where each aged care facility can make it up themselves. So these costs vary. It could be $5 a day, $10 a day. The last client that I helped transition into aged care that I was talking about at the start of this chat, we managed to negotiate down the cost of their room. So we got that down. And because they were actually quite empty at the time, we're talking just kind of coming out of that COVID period, the daily fee that was at $10 a day, they agreed to waive that. And so that's negotiable. But it can be $5 a day, $10 a day, $20 a day, $30 a day. It does vary depending on where you're going. And Mina, to your question about the $1 million, often when you're going into somewhere that you're paying $1 million, they've often got quite a hefty extra services fee that they tack on as well. So it's something you need to be mindful of, because again, that's something that has to be paid each day, and it goes on forever. So we can very quickly end up in tens of thousands of dollars worth of extra services fees also. So they're the three areas in which fees are charged and how they kind of work. That's a bit of an intro into aged care. There are a whole bunch of strategies off the back end of that about how do you manage someone and how do you best structure their affairs when they do move into care. Are you better to pay it up front? Are you better to pay the interest, and or some combination of both? Are you better to sell the house? Are you better to rent the house? So it does vary. Each individual circumstances vary, and I guess that's where we get involved in providing the advice. So anyone that's still with me now, you might be thinking that the advice that I provide jumps around all over the place. I put out some videos not that long ago about money tips in your 30s and your 40s. And now we're talking about aged care advice. So I've spoken about this plenty of times before, I haven't gone down the route of really narrowing down the advice that I provide. A lot of work that I do is actually across multi-generations of the one family. And so, being able to help with the aged care piece at one end and the 30-year-olds at the other and the people in between, I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of that and working with the whole family unit. And hence, that's where I'm, that's where I'm at, and then kind of jumping around all over the place with these different pieces of advice that I work in. Is this why robot servants to be the things that I can stay at home? Yeah. I was talking to a client yesterday. It's got one of those robot vacuum cleaners that's doing their house, and they're absolutely loving that. I'm sure the robot help isn't too far away. Sheena, thank you for jumping on there. A great explanation of the cost. Dealing with Centrelink to get the assessment correct can also be add to the burden. So much value and advice to get the client. Yeah, absolutely. So the process that we follow, and others follow a very similar process. We do a piece of advice at the start where we say, look, circumstances look like this. You want to go to a residence that's charging these types of fees. How best do you structure your affairs so that you can minimize the fees and make it all affordable and all of those kind of things? There's a trade-off between making it affordable and running out of money, and a whole bunch of different competing interests there. So we work through that advice piece, and then on the back end, as Sheena's pointing out here, dealing with Centrelink. So there's a whole host of paperwork that needs to be lodged with Centrelink. Quite often it all gets messed up, and they're double counting houses and assets, and it's a big mess. So part of the work that we do is actually helping clients on the back end, once they've actually moved into somewhere, to work through the paperwork, the Centrelink paperwork that goes with it all. So that's everything for me today. I was just a couple of conversations around aged care. Given the time of year, I thought it may be of relevance to a few of you out there that are either watching this live or catching it on the replay. I'm going to wrap up shortly, so if anyone's got any questions or comments, by all means jump in and share those now. But I'll be back again for another live tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going into the office, so I'm still sitting at the moment in my son's bedroom. I will be in the office tomorrow, so I'll jump on live at some point. Then again, I've got a few meetings and bits and pieces all over the place, so I'll try to give you some warning for anyone that might be interested in catching it live. Try to give you some warning of the topic and when, but otherwise, if not, I'll just jump on as I have. If anyone's there and can join, great. If they can't, well, the replay will be there. Mina, thank you for jumping on. Glad you found that of interest. And as I said at the start, it's probably not terribly relevant for you as an individual. You're probably a fair way off from needing to go into aged care, but it is something that may be relevant for family and others that you may know. So a bit of background there. That's it for me today. Enjoy your Wednesday, and I'll jump on tomorrow for December Daily number 8. See you there. Bye.